Good morning. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am the West African correspondent, Edward Amara. Welcome to this all important discussion, especially on Nigeria, the Gubernatorial election 2023. Anyway, Nigeria is very important country, as I normally say, very important country on the continent of Africa. Therefore, what affects Nigeria almost tend to affect Africa in general. Reason being, a country that has over 200 million people and with a very strong economy, arguably with other African countries, they compete in one or two things. So when we watch at situations like that, we tend to understand and accept the fact that Nigeria election will almost always have a very good impact on the continent. Because with a potential threat that is found into the country, especially like in states where the central government led by Buhari, the incumbent president, although we already have a president-elect by the name of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who will definitely be succeeding the incumbent or the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, but from the same APC party, the All Progressive Party. We have been witnessing series of events that happened into Nigeria in time of maybe political destabilization, like public demonstration against certain failures into the government. Then also we have witnessed, seen and heard how series of maybe Islamic movement into the country have affected the uniformity of the country in type of living up to expectation. Then we have seen how kidnapping has rise or is on the rise into Nigeria, and some other queer things normally happen. And watching at how vast the country is, over 200 million people and over 200 with more than 200 different ethnic groups, so we see that there are different culture, ethnicity play key roles into Nigeria. But also Nigerians are very religious. In fact, they are the most religious country when it comes to Africa. Yet, so certain nefarious things happen into the country. And because of poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance, most people who have queer intention to destabilize the country normally use religion and ethnicity or tribal background to ensure that they unite the country on a principle that we definitely not tend to augur down well with the development that Nigeria herself is yearning for. And we have all been afraid not anything bad to actually happen into the state of Nigeria. Because since it returned to democracy, 24 good years, Nigeria have had an uninterrupted perpetual change in government, and the democracy have been a bit stable because from Obasanjo, Yaradua, Goodluck Jonathan, Muhammad Buhari, then finally Bola Ahmed Tinubu is now the president-elect, the Lagosian, a man who is well credited for having developed Lagos in terms of infrastructure, stability. When we talk about stability in Nigeria in the state level, normally we relate it to the current political affairs into the state, how powerful and important the governance are. So we have normally been afraid for Nigeria not to erupt into a state that will become into a pandemonium state. Because even now with the activities of Boko Haram and ASWAP, that is the Islamic State of West Africa, currently operating into Nigeria, look at what is happening. Places like Cameroon are no longer stable. Chad are not stable. Chad is definitely not stable. Cameroon is not stable. Chad is not stable. Niger is also suffering from a spilling effect of what happens into Cameroon. Then we have heard of series of events like in Burkina Faso, how ISIL have normally been carrying on their activities. You see places like Mali. Then also it's definitely not stable. Of course, Guinea is not suffering from any terrorism attack, but you're having a junta government over there. But Guinea-Bissau is used with a lot of coup d'etat. Even, of course, Equatorial Guinea, which have now been designated as one of the highest cocaine trafficking area on the continent of Africa. Then even like Central African Republic is having another war over there, like the anti-Balaka, Christian Balaka. Central African Republic do not share boundary actually directly with Nigeria, but they share boundary with places like Cameroon. Cameroon does share boundary with Nigeria, which all makes the area to be on the time bomb. So like, if things like that are just happening to Nigeria, when it is not even war, and it's just insurgents, political instability, yet the country, those spilling effects is not affecting Africa, how worse would it be if Nigeria were going to war? That is why it is so important for the Nigerians to conduct themselves responsibly and to have a pool that will speak a lot on the continent of Africa. Now let's see the gubernatorial election into Nigeria. Today they are conducting the State Assembly and gubernatorial election. The other time, senatorial election, 3 types of election took place on the 25th of February. The presidential election, the senatorial election, and National Assembly election actually took place. Although in some states, we are expecting senatorial elections and the governorship election to still happen into another 8 states, because it was only 28 that we are being conducted the other time. So when these things come out, of course, like the Federal Republic of Abuja, you only have senators and ministers controlling the place, but you do not have another governor over there because it's the federal capital. You cannot have 2 presidents in the same place, where you have Bola Ahmed Tinubu being elected, or Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu being elected, they have another governor. So you will find it difficult on who to dispense order into the city. So their system is very important, organized. Because Nigeria is a polarized society, unarguably polarized society, then with different cultural and religious background, thinking about its population and a very large society. So they have deemed it necessary to have the presidential system, the presidential federal system of government, where you have at the state level governors controlling, then at the national level you see Mr. President controlling. The president normally takes place. It has places like foreign affairs. They take about the currency, that is finance, economy, whatsoever involved into it, and also national security. But at the state level, you see the governors playing key roles in terms of education, in terms of health, and infrastructural development. And these governors are normally so powerful to Nigeria to understand that if they quarrel with the national government, things may not definitely, because the president cannot be into the state to dispense order. It is the governor. And in Nigeria, you see divided loyalty. Some people may tend more to pay loyalty to the state government instead of the national government. That is why in the federal states, you see national loyalty become very difficult. There is no too much national cohesion. You find it that people tend to obey their state more than the central government. So the central government may not have too much power to will what happened in Gombe State, in Kano State, in Yobe State, in Anambra State, Akwa Ibom State, Benin, you name this state. So you find out that you have difficulties in how they control these states. And most of them, the governors tend to play key role because they look up to him as their president. They look up to him for their medication in terms of well-being. They look up to him for the education of their kids or their children. And they look up to him for immediate infrastructural development, even in security. There are certain states, they create certain type of security to ensure that they have a strong control over the system. So the governors are so important that even Mr. President, if he cannot have a successful and strong collaboration with these governors, he may not tend to have direct impact on what happens into those states. That is why sometimes you see each government that comes into power, they fight too hard to get those Niger Delta states where oil are being produced, because these are the Nigeria economic hub, so strong. Like if you cannot have strong collaboration, contact, very good mixture amalgamation with some of these state government where you have insurgent movement going on, they find it difficult how to triumph over this state. So the state government are so important. Today they are going to the polls, and as I speak, they are definitely at the polls electing their governors, their immediate presidents, and also electing the state assemblies. And in the state assembly, this is where like you have that is their own parliament. This is where they enact their own bylaws. They try to operate on them, because normally it operates, because in certain states in Nigeria, like in places like Kano, Katsina, other places, they have the tendency to implement Sharia laws. When you go into the western state and some of these eastern states, they believe more in liberal, and they are more liberal. So that is why there are certain things that occur into certain states in Nigeria and other states, it is definitely not there. So even the court system, there are certain states where the constitution gives them mandate maybe to implement some Muslim or Islamic law where they interpret this thing. They are like, what places like Kano, Katsina, other places, they have moral police, Islamic moral police over there. They can arrest you for whatsoever thing. And they try to, how can you have Islamic moral or Christian? You have never heard of Christian moral police into certain eastern or western states. But that is what normally happens. Then you have some states like Abuja and Lagos, of course, more urbanized, more westernized, more amalgamated. Then we sophisticated mentality. Different people come in over there, and they tend to accept this thing, because it is not it is nobody's city. The city is everybody's, because it's nobody's city, then it becomes everybody's city. So some of these things are so important. That is why the gubernatorial election is so important to Nigeria. And then, when you watch at this type of election, some of the things that we normally think: how will a governor successfully govern a state if it does not have a strong nexus or link with Mr. President? And how will Mr. President have support into certain states if he does not have direct, strong, and link with collaboration? So they depend on it all, that it becomes so interwoven, and the system becomes so important. But in Nigeria today, the biggest problem about the country is ethnicity mentality. Some people have already been radicalized in terms of religion. I think the failure on the part of the state lead to the negative radicalization of the Nigerian population. Some Nigerians even think that Nigeria is a failed state, because thinking about how strong the economy of Nigeria is, thinking about how powerful other countries rate Nigerians, you think about their population also is a godly given gift. Then you think about the human resources that they have within the population, and yet there is political instability. There is commotion almost everywhere. Look, when they made a huge attempt to redesign and drop down some of the numerical values of the currency, it resulted into huge commotion. And maybe the issue was not clinically analyzed, justifies on the prevailing circumstances. Now, although the notes still have the legal the legal right to operate, but the old currency will still continue to exist till next year. And we saw prior to the election how certain banks we are being attacked, the workers' life placed under threat because people wanted to change the currency and there was none available. Now, with all the petition that took place, we did not see any movement on the side of Peter Obi and Bola Atiku Abubakar, because these were mere allegations. For them to be justified and taken into consideration, what they were asking, then let them take their complaints to the court level. And those things, we have not seen them. And with series of threats coming from the opposition, today they are all at the polls. The presidential election gave the man 37% of the total valid vote cast, which made him to be the most popular one elected among the three. And we saw 12 states going to Peter, 12 states going to Atiku, 12 states going to Bola. So if the governors are also elected, maybe there could be balanced system, because there will be no absolute majority coming from one side, so they can decide, but states are governed independently. When it comes down to the senatorial or the state assemblies election, we also expect a hectic way of collaboration. Maybe we are expecting a more robust type of election. But I think with all the young population that Nigeria was having, arguably everybody would have thought that maybe Peter just came in. So it is not just possible for him to win the election, especially against the traditionally established teams or political parties in Nigeria, that is the PDP and the APC. But he took everybody by surprise, especially when he won Lagos State. Because since the election of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a governor in Lagos, when he left, vertically Lagos has been an APC state. And he has been handpicking one governor to another. But now that he lost the presidential election of Lagos State to that of Peter Obi, we don't know what may happen in the gubernatorial election, where only requires simple majority for him to win. First past the post system. It is going to be highly contested election into Lagos. Then we are seeing, like, unfortunately, Nigeria is a masculine society. Maybe women can be given the opportunity to become ministers, but in terms of governance, it's rare. I have never seen, nor heard. But today in Anambra State, we are having a woman who is actually contesting for the gubernatorial election in Anambra State. Maybe Peter Obi in his state, a woman will definitely become a governor. Because things are changing. More informed youth have taken it up to the situation. And they want to change that. I think that maybe you can say there is a generational clash into Nigeria. Because it is just because Peter could not be considered. To me, Peter is not a youth. But he is the youngest among the three contesting candidates. So that's why people are saying he's a youth. But he's not a youth. He managed the 50. How can he be pronounced a youth? I don't know. Even on US standard, it's no longer a youth. Because he's around 35 years. So he's no longer a youth. But it was Peter being pronounced a youth is relative to the age range in those involved in the presidential contest. So today, the situation of Nigeria is a call for concern. And we are hoping, praying and wishing that the gubernatorial, and mind you, what is so interesting about Nigeria that each time gubernatorial elections are being held, just after the election, petitions will definitely be made, and some elections will be overturned or will be turned over, and other elections will be conducted. Sometimes elections are not even conducted, another governor will be placed. Because the risk factor of everything will be that like when Bola, in case he's not being petitioned in court and the court did not overturn his election winning result, he comes into power. The tendency is that some states, the APC is definitely going to lose them, which is arguably the APC stronghold. And those losing candidates will definitely be complaining. So should Bola Ahmed Tinubu comes into power, expect him to have direct impact on the court system. And those governors who may have won the election, the gubernatorial election, in some of those states where it was, or elections were highly contested, but because the APC will now be in power, and they will be maybe the aggrieved candidate who one or two way may have thought that they actually won the election, but the election result we are not announcing to their favor, they will claim election rigging. Cases like that will be petitioned in court. And the strong man in power, because he may also want to have somebody who stays into that state, who also is a governor, and who also is an APC apologist or a sympathizer to be governor in the state. They will use their influence. That is the risky part of everything. They will use their influence to ensure that the court overturn those elections, either a fresh election that are conducted, or they will nullify most of the winning candidate election, and that second best candidate will become the first bet. The situation continues. And normally, the gubernatorial elections is full of chaotic scenes, because some people may want to win the election at all costs. And we are fearing that what happened the other time in Bayelsa State should not also repeat itself, where armed robbers and marksmen attack some police station and cater away with ballot boxes. We saw also on social media where somebody was apprehended by disgruntled youth who seriously tortured him, and even they were forcing him to show them where his sponsors are, or somebody who sponsors him. So all of those things are important. Today, Nigeria will officially complete her electioneering process in terms of the gubernatorial election, state assembly election, senatorial election, national assembly election, and the presidential election. So it'll be up to the court, the Supreme Court now, to listen to petitions, maybe fairly judge them, and make pronouncements of satisfied candidates who actually won the election. And from that stage, Nigeria will be ordered to move. And the country will one be satisfied of having another successful democratic election. Although it has been condemned by some international observers, especially by the electronic portal system that was set up, which never worked as prescribed, as anticipated, especially for the presidential election. And we have other series of events that took place. Today, I don't know what we election observers from Nigeria, that of Sierra Leone, who have the intention to conduct their election in October and June respectively, will take from Nigeria. Because there was nothing, to me there was nothing land. And nothing should be copied from the Nigeria election. Because it ended up to create commotion, pandemonium, or anarchy into our own states. And we really don't want that. The election we are carefully manipulated. Election results we are well doctored. And pronouncement we are being made. And as anticipated, the ruling candidate won. People are being aggrieved. Threats are being made. But I can really admire the conduct of Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar. It's a clear indication that they value the state compared to their personal egos. Because after that, they decided that we are going to use the legal system to prosecute or what, for them to hear our grievances and maybe look into the election result. But by then going to INEC to ask INEC again to watch into those petitions, and INEC also promised to provide them pieces of evidence, even the data that they collated, so that they can table their complaints to court. It's a clear indication that chaotic situation. We, honestly speaking, I'm not expecting the election result to be turned over, especially the presidential election. For the gubernatorial election, we expect certain things like that to happen. But for the presidential election, I think there is a zero chance. Reason being, over $700 million was invested to conduct the election. And watching at the economy of Nigeria, they wouldn't risk conducting another election. So it is high time Atiku Abubakar gave up his intention. It is high time Atiku Abubakar gave up his intention of ever becoming president of Nigeria. Because by the time Bola Ahmed Tinubu leaves, the man will arguably be in his 80s, Atiku. What will he be doing? Except if the PDP think and feel that the only most educated, more influential, more maybe affluently placed person to always standing for the PDP should be Atiku Abubakar. But maybe they should look for another candidate. Just maybe. I don't think whether people think and feel that Atiku is the right person to win. He's a Muslim. And he has tried a lot. Becoming vice president, governor, businessman, whatsoever thing. Let him give up now. He has done his own best for Nigeria, but his best was not considered enough to be elected as president. Peter Kebin did extremely well. I think he has succeeded to debase most of the APC stronghold. Maybe came in so strongly and have another strong establishment into Nigeria. So today, Nigeria, a Peter Obi candidacy can continue into that vein. Maybe there will no longer be tradition into Nigeria. They will only have 3 strong states. No, there is 0 chances now. So we are happy, we feel elated to observe what happens into Nigeria. And we hope and pray that all elections being conducted, results will be fairly treated, and INEC will be better placed. Thank you.